I want to wish everyone a blessed and beautiful day. I would like to express my gratitude and respect to my beloved teacher, Mr. Jolito Abni. Sir, good morning. To my classmates, friends, visitors, once again, good morning. I am Gisani Biula. I studied at Jose Rizal Memorial State University, major in Social Studies. Ang nagpapakitang turo sa araw na ito. Today, I will be discussing the famous French monarchs during the age of absolutism and their contribution to world history. So if you want to watch, stay tuned! Absolute monarchy in France slowly emerged in the 16th century and became firmly established during the 17th century. Absolute monarchy is a variation of the governmental form of monarchy in which the monarch holds supreme authority, is not restricted by any written laws, legislature, or customs. In France, Louis XIV was the most famous exemplar of absolute monarchy, with his court central to France's political and cultural life during his reign. It ended in May 1789 when widespread social distress led to the convocation of the States General, which was converted into a National Assembly in June. The Assembly passed a series of radical measures, including the abolition of feudalism, state control of the Catholic Church, and extending to the right to vote. The final outcome of these acts did centralize the authority of France behind the king, the replacement of government ministers, removal of castles, and other financial policies of Colbert did reduce France's national debt considerably. In the 18th century, however, the recollections of novels and the sheer obsolescence of Versailles became an important place for a rising merchant class and investigate press. Perhaps the most pressing consequences of absolutism in France is the immigration of the Huguenots of the merchant class. Their immigration effectively led to a brain drain and a loss of tax revenue for France. Moreover, beyond from New France, they immigrated to other nations, most notably the 13th colonized, taking their skills of printing, glassmaking, carpentry, ceramics, a deep belief in the needs for freedom of religions, at least for Protestantism, and the right to bear arms. The other consequences was a large reduction of dominating influences of the Kingdom of France in Europe, and a rise in the power of other kingdoms to strengthen their empire, notably is Great Britain, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire. This caused numerous deadly wars with them in Europe, America, and Africa, some of them won by France or its allies, notably for the independence of the United States, but this caused the loss of most parts of New France, most continental parts in North America, including those that would be sold later to the United States after the end of monarchy in France by the First French Empire on some islands in the Caribbean. Self-degradation of economic advantage of the First French colonial empire, accumulation of debts in the kingdom, with growing influences of the merchants against the French nobility, and a considerable loss of economic, diplomatic, political, and cultural influences in Europe. All this being left the growing British colonial empire even after it lost of New England and to its allies all around France and Spain, including the Spanish Netherlands, Austria, including Italy, Nordic countries, and later the United States. Another consequences of the creation of the United States and of the costly wars between France and all its neighbors in Europe was also that it initiated lot of served political and social troubles throughout the kingdom, and it paved the way to the French Revolution and finally the end of the absolute monarchy, via a short step of constitutional monarchy, restoring some parliamentary powers to the States General between 1789 and 1791, and then to the First French Republic, during which the eviction of the traditional French clergy and nobility from the Constitution further strengthened the military alliance of all European neighbors against France. That lost influences of France was never restored in the following centuries, even after the emergence of the First French Empire, which terminated the dictator, renewed a strongly divided France, restored the freedom of religion, and allowed the re-emergence of a stable commercial sector, but also initiated new wars against other monarchies in continental Europe, or after the formation of a new French colonial empire by the Third Republic. Even today's Fifth Republic in France mimic some novels from other European constitutional monarchies because of the stability and influence of the head of state, monarch or elected president, to preserve the territorial unity by an enforced balance of powers. Unlike past republics, it even accepts and protects constitutionally the presence of nobility, religions, or diverse cultures are plain components and non-absolute actors of the republic, even if it promotes its own unified system, freely accessible to all its nationals or applicable directly only to its foreign residents. Absolute rule replaced a system whereby the monarchs worked with others. Prior to absolute rule, a king of France worked with the states. He was still a powerful ruler, but in one sense, he shared his authority with them. When this system broke down, a country could descend into a civil war. The most prominent monarchs who fully embodied absolutist principles was Louis XIV, called the Sun King, who ruled France from 1643 to 1715. This was the way in which the central government could act across the laws and piecemeal through war and inheritance, a way revenue of trying to maximize the revenue of control of the sometimes disparate holdings. Once absolute monarchs gained power, they began to consolidate or reinforce their power within their borders. They would set up larger royal courts. Monarchs would do this in order to appear more powerful and to control the nobility. They also regulated religion to control the spread of ideas, and this was the contribution of absolutism in the world history. Louis XIV, also known as Louis the Great or the Sun King, was king of France from 14 May 1643 until his death in 1715. His reign of 72 years and 110 days is the longest recorded of any monarch as sovereign country in history. Louis XIV, France was emblematic the age of absolutism in Europe.